Greetings everyone, happy Halloween, ghosts and ghouls, and welcome to... well, what might be the final season of Trash Tapes as we know it. I'm Johann, your host and the lover of melodrama, and I wanted to introduce this special episode to sort of explain what's been happening with myself and with the podcast. As you've probably already noticed, there was a bit of a gap between the last episode and now. In fact, you probably noticed there's been quite a few gaps throughout the 5 years of doing this. And so, after some honest soul searching during this mini hiatus, I have decided that this will officially be the end of the Trash Tapes podcast. I've been doing this now for well over 5 years, but it's now time, it's probably best that we finally put up the boots and lay it to rest. Okay, I might be a little bit dramatic here, but point being is this will no longer be my podcast outlet anymore. At least not this one. As you may or may not know, I'm the only person on the team that work on the podcast in the sense of it being mostly edited, researched, recorded, and promoted by myself, with my partner in crime, Edward Harvey, helping wherever he can, whether it is making thumbnails or whether it is putting things on Instagram or finding the sound bites for me. But overall, this was always and kind of has been a one-man show. I mean, we started this off very strong at the beginning, with Troll 2 being our first episode, and going in strong for the first season. But as the years went by, so much has changed, both with the format of the podcast itself and with our own lives. From mental health issues to pandemic, financial troubles, job responsibilities, and to even different life goals, this podcast as we know it is no longer me. It is not as fun to do anymore. This podcast has never reached a level of profit where I could extend it to be a part-time job, or really excelled for it to be a future business. It could never really be a part of me, and slowly but surely this podcast became more of a chore than it ever was being fun. But I do not want to just leave it there. I always feel like after doing this for so long that it needs to be celebrated. And so what you will be hearing from now until the next 3 or 4 months or so will be a combination of a lot of backlogged episodes I have done recording and a few freshly made episodes to finally give this podcast the send-off it deserves. Do not worry though, this podcast will stay up as a means of preserving it. This will not be deleted. I have always enjoyed my time with the Trash Tapes, and I'm very proud of what I have done with it. It's been a journey, and I want this memory to stay up for everyone to listen to. That isn't to say that I'm no longer going to be podcasting anymore, or not working with Enigmatic. That's far from it. When it comes to videos, I'll always be up for joining Ed and making content when and wherever possible. That will never go away. We've been doing that for way too long. But there will hopefully be a new monthly podcast coming from the ashes of this one. It will be a film talk podcast called The Forgotten Reel, where we'll be just talking about a cult film that time may have forgotten about with very little gimmicks or whistles, just banter and insight. That will hopefully kick off in early 2023, and I will keep you all informed on its first episode on all social platforms. And with that as well, if you're still wanting bad cinema chat, I will now be joining the boys at the Not Bad Film Club on their monthly podcast/radio show, discussing the films that they have got on screen, or torture the public with per se. So stay tuned to that. And speaking of screenings, what emerged from the Trash Tapes that I've honestly loved are the connections I've made along the way, whether it's with filmmakers, fans, people in the bad movie industry, but also with like cinemas, such as the Quad in Derby. I mean, before the pandemic kicked in, we planned on doing bad movie screenings there every 2 months, and we did for a little while. We did Miami Connection, we did Troll 2, we also did Spookies for a little on an online thing, but we also wanted to do more. We wanted to do things like Barbed Wire, for example. We wanted to do The Room. We wanted to do so many more, and that came to a halt. But now that things are slowly coming back together, it's coming back now as the Cult Film Club. and starting on November the 12th with the screening of Pink Flamingos. It's so exciting that we're finally going to get some cult cinema like this. I'm so honored that they're willing to give this a shot. It will be a blast, and I would love it if all of you could attend if you're based in the local area. Links to buy tickets and to join our CFC Facebook group, as well as all other social medias, can be found in the description below. And so, enough about the update. It is time to go back through the catalogue. And this episode was originally supposed to be part 2 of our Pride Month special. Clearly that didn't happen. It was such a fun time, and so I will no longer let it be hidden from the world. I know it isn't a spooky film, which would be more apt for the Halloween season, but for some people, this is a bona fide horror movie. So, get your wire hangers ready, as we will be diving in face mask first into this autobiographical camp classic, Mommie Dearest.
You are about to experience trash cinema.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Trash Tapes, where one man's trash is another man's treasure. I'm your host, Johann, your host and the inflictor of pain. Just brought in my regular victim and DJ, Edward Harvey. Hi!
Hi, how you doing? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you,
Thank you. I always love that soundbite.
I haven't used it for a while. I thought I'd pop it in. It's been a little while, so I thought that was appropriate.
It is appropriate, I think, because honestly, I need a friendly face after the movie we're about to talk about today. Because, God Almighty, what a banger of a movie we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'll just say going in, I didn't really know much about this movie. I actually thought I didn't even know it was like sort of about Joan Crawford. Because of the cult status of it and the imagery I'd seen, I thought it was like a cult horror film, like a cult, like, and maybe I was getting my mind getting mixed up with Dolly Dearest, because that's another one we've done on the show.
Oh, we did that one on the show, though, didn't we? But yeah, it's been famed for being. Some people could call it a horror movie. I would not be surprised. And some people will call it, and as I'll quote, it's been called the fucking Citizen Kane of camp.
Yes.
So
definitely, I'll agree with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hide your wire hangers, because we're about to do one of the big grand happies of all trash cinema. We're doing Mommie Dearest. Damn it.
Yeah.
To a truly great lady, Miss Joan Crawford.
You know what's missing in my life?
Come on, you've got everything you want.
No, I don't. I want a baby.
Out of the question.
Don't you dare judge me. We have a moral and legal responsibility. And what you're really doing is denying one of your children the opportunity to live a wonderful and advantaged life.
You're a lucky little girl, and very expensive. It cost me a lot of favors.
Christina, darling, I'm going to make a perfect life for you. You and me together. Look at that.
Yes, Mommie Dearest.
When I asked you to call me that, I wanted you to mean it.
Joan Crawford, the most dramatic role of her life, was her life. Frank Yablans presents Faye Dunaway as Joan Crawford in Mommie Dearest.
Oh my God. I don't believe we're finally doing this one. Because I've been telling you for a while we kind of need to do this episode.
Yeah. Well, this is like this is a biggie, isn't it? It's almost like we would do this on like an anniversary episode or something.
We would do, but I just thought to myself, because it's basically, as of time of recording, it's still Pride Month.
Yeah.
And when it comes out, hopefully it'll still be Pride Month.
No.
But point being is that I thought to myself, I want to do something a bit special. I did the Xanadu episode with the Their Queer podcast, which is that was so funny. I couldn't keep a straight face. But I thought to myself, you know what? I didn't want to leave you out of it. And I said, you know what? I didn't want to leave you out of it. So I thought, why not show you what's been considered one of the campiest movies of all time? And so this is where we're going to Mommie Dearest. So you said before we did the recording that you had very little knowledge of this movie.
Yeah, I've just literally seen. There's a lot of obviously you can't, if you're into cult films, you can't avoid like gifs for like the wire hangers and stuff like that. They just pop up. But there's like there's a site that often like makes gifs that are like, they often do like horror films, and but they also did gifs for Mommie Dearest. So I assumed it was like for a cult horror film, like some kind of cult horror film about an abusive mother. Like that's what I thought it was. And it's not far from that, to be honest.
It's so weird, isn't it, to think like, you're not wrong. It can be seen as a horror movie. For some people, 100%, this could be totally seen as a horror movie. But it's a movie that has literally, to my mind, has just gotten a life of its own. It has departed from many ways from what the original intention of the movie was and turned into something completely different.
Yeah, with it's like extreme accidental comedy, isn't it? It's
extreme is not even the word here. Like, it's fascinatingly scary almost how the movie can literally flip on a dime. Like literally, I've never seen a movie just go from something quite serious and surprisingly engrossing to the most insane, batshit, crazy performance you'd ever see. Sometimes even within the same scene. Sometimes even within the same speech.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was weird as well, where once the studio knew what was kind of going on with this, they changed the marketing slightly, didn't they, to like fit in with the whole comedy.
Yes.
And on the poster, I think it said something like the biggest mother of them all or something like that.
Exactly. So yeah, basically, just to kind of clarify a little bit, just a little fill in a little bit. So Mommie Dearest is, for those who have no idea about it, Mommie Dearest is a 1981 American biographical psychological drama directed by Frank Perry, which happens to be based off a book by Christina Crawford, the adopted daughter of Joan Crawford. And it was a memoir, basically, of how horribly abusive of a mother, manipulative a mother, Joan Crawford was. And then, so just from the tone alone, you're thinking, oh God, it's a movie about child abuse, right? It's supposed to be quite harrowing and quite scary. There has been loads of people but loads of people were trying to come in to make the movie, which we're going to go through as we talk about the production. And then it's kind of skewered to the point when all the bad reviews start to happen, people were starting to laugh at it. And then, and this is one of my favorite bits about this, is people were already starting to do, after a month of this was being released, people were actively starting to coming into these movies like almost like a Frankie, sort of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show thing.
Yeah,
they were coming in with wire hangers, coming in with face with stuff all over their face, with talcum powder. They were all in on it, and they would do it. They were like, whoa! So it changed the advertising from being literally like, this is Faye Dunaway, Joan Crawford. This is the role of her life, to look at this crazy bitch, basically.
I also heard that some screenings even have like people with sort of Christina kind of dolls, and they hit them with wire hangers. It's like crazy.
Yes, I'm not joking. It's full-blown participatory theater. It's like what you do now with things like Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Room, things like that. It became its own thing. And this is partly the reason why we're doing it for Pride Month, because this is clearly part of the reason several reasons why it's become very big in the LGBTQ plus community, particularly with drag queens, because drag queens particularly loved this performance. And most drag queens have now even claimed it was the first ever on-screen drag queen performance done by a woman, basically.
Yeah.
It was they fell in love with the campiness. Also during that time, a lot of queer people and drag queens are always were always in love with like these starlets of Hollywood era, and Joan Crawford in particular. In fact, has been told that Joan Crawford's fan base, especially in like the later years, were mostly gay men. So this was almost like a shoo-in for the gay market. We can talk about the whole movie, but I don't think we're going to do it by plot. We are going to talk about probably for me, the more interesting aspects of the movie, which is the entire production behind this movie. Yeah. And what the fuck happened there?
Had lots of writers, didn't it? That's always a bad sign. Many writers.
I think we've learned this from before doing this for I don't know how many years now. Whenever there are too many writers, you know there's a problem. So the central role of Joan Crawford wasn't originally going to go to Faye Dunaway. It was going to be run by Anne Bancroft originally, when it was going to be also done by it was also going to be directed by Franco Zaffarelli, and it was going to be adapted by James Kirkwood, and even at some point Mira Farrow was going to be involved in all this. There was a lot here, right? But the problem was that everyone eventually quit because they just couldn't find out how to do this, because the book itself was both praised and criticized. Do you know much? I never, unfortunately, I haven't read the book, and I don't think you might have heard of it either.
No, from what I imagine, from what I've heard, it's more from obviously Christina's perspective. The book is, but when you make a movie, you have to make a movie about the star, really, and Joan Crawford's the Hollywood starlet kind of thing. So I suppose you have the focal point as Joan Crawford, but Christina hated the fact that was the focus in the movie. I think that's the thing she was the most angry about, I think.
Well, she was angry about a lot of things, but that was definitely the part she was angry about. It's a book from the perspective of an abuse, of the one being abused, the victim. Yeah, but it's looking it through the eyes not of Christina, but of Joan Crawford, the abuser. And the book itself was both praised and criticized. It was praised for being bold and honest, right? But a lot of people criticized it for literally just being a laundry list of things that happened, instead of really trying to, I assume people wanted to read it, was wanting like a full psychoanalysis on Joan Crawford. Yeah. Basically. They wanted to say like, why is she doing this? What is the case? Many years later now, yes, as people who've come out and sort of said, yeah, this is probably the reason why she behaved in this manner, blah, blah, blah. But the book was like, she did this to me. She did this to me.
Like a revenge piece kind of thing, do you think?
Well, do you know the reason why it's a revenge piece?
Oh,
it is a revenge piece.
In the movie, there's the whole way it ends where, I suppose you can talk about the end because people will have seen this film if they listen.
Well, but here's the thing, though. It's obviously that was not really in. I'm not sure if that part was in the book, but basically, Joan Crawford had the final say. The cow, apparently, by literally not putting Christina and the other adopted son Christopher into the will, and I didn't give them a goddamn cent. And so because of that, I'm assuming that's why the book was written, I think.
It sort of points towards that in the movie, I think, as well. Like, it lingers on Christina, like, has she had the last say kind of thing?
Has she? And to be honest, I found that hilarious, because it's like saying, because Christopher just turns to her and goes like, I think she always wanted the last laugh, and she always had the last say, and she goes like, really? And she keeps looking off camera, but we kind of suspect she just wants to look into the camera going, have you read the book?
I know, and if she was that angry and she was, abused and stuff, she's not going to exactly portray a mother in a sympathetic light at any point, is she? So it's definitely going to be one-sided.
It is my intention to make no provision herein for my son Christopher or my daughter Christina. for reasons which are well known to them.
What reasons?
Jesus Christ.
As usual, she has the last word.
Does she?
I mean, I think that's the thing, is because there were other sort of biographies around Joan Crawford near and around her death that were, I wouldn't say sympathetic to her either, but they were more like, they were trying to put reasoning behind things, I guess, which I think, like, in a weird way, that's what people want in their characters. Does that make sense? As a character, you want to some degree, you want some reasoning behind why they do certain things.
Oh yeah, in the movie, there is no motive. It's like Michael Myers.
My God, it's like literally snaps on a dime. And I've never seen something go crazy in my life about it. So the book comes out. Cute, but the thing is, even though it was literally saying like, oh, this is just a hit piece and whatever it is, it was a huge success. And so the producer, Frank Yabbins, basically said, before even the book came out, they heard this thing was going to happen, put $50,000 for the film rights right there and then. Like, I'll buy the rights off you right now.
Right. Wow.
So Frank Yabbins, as a producer, has been trying so very hard to try and sort of make this movie and really try to hammer it around town, which is why you got things like Anne Bancroft, there's going to be Mira Farrow, there's going to be quite a few people until stumbles across Faye Dunaway.
I think even Sigourney Weaver was approached as well, or considered at least.
Sigourney Weaver was considered at one point.
It's like most of these people are going to be thinking, oh, dodged a bullet, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing, they did. A lot of the agents of Faye Dunaway actually thought that this was going to be a bad idea.
Yeah.
But Faye Dunaway at the time saw a lot of herself in Joan Crawford. Not like in the, crazy, but in the other way, which is what I think the movie was battling across.
Rags to riches story kind of thing, yeah.
Exactly. And so Faye Dunaway said, I see myself with this. So she almost said to herself, I want this to happen. So when she was being asked for an audition, and I adore this idea, she actually got up extra early in the morning, did her makeup and dressed up exactly like Joan Crawford, went to the producer's house, knocked on the door and introduced herself as Joan Crawford. She instantly got the job from there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So this already screams Faye Dunaway really wants this role because she almost sees it as the ultimate embodiment of herself. Like she said, this is me. This is the dream role. This is gonna get me the second Oscar. This is the one.
And she's quite method, isn't she? So that's quite dangerous sometimes. You can actually become the role, can't you?
And that's the reason why there's been some very famous horror stories of Faye Dunaway on that movie. She became incredibly method to the point that she actually said, and I quote, that this role was perhaps the most difficult screen role at the time she's ever done because of the emotional highs demanded for the part. She basically became emotionally, mentally, and physically drained throughout the movie, and even hurt herself physically several times by being too involved, basically.
Wow.
She went full method, basically. She went full Joan, full method, and just got too entrenched. Because all the stories say, for example, it basically said that it's been told that she was very difficult to work on set. The method approach seemed to almost absorb her and make it difficult for the cast and crew to talk to her as Faye Dunaway and not this aberration of what would have been Joan Crawford, because it's not really Joan Crawford, isn't it? I don't imagine Joan Crawford was ever like this.
I mean, it's a caricature, isn't it?
It's a pure character. So basically what happened here is she has been absorbed by, I don't know, it's like she's been possessed by a demon, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, wasn't Faye as well, sort of almost believing the hype of being Joan Crawford as well. Like she was demanding more like screen time and stuff like that. Like she's always sort of in like almost trying to be the director of it in a way.
She was already renowned to be a little bit difficult. I mean, she was told she was difficult during Network. Recently, in the recent episode I launched out for Not So Trash Reviews, in terms of In the Eyes of Laura Mars, she was also claimed to be a little difficult on set. So she was already difficult.
Right.
But now imagine her being completely possessed by Joan Crawford.
That's just next level, isn't it?
Another woman who is famous for literally like manipulating everything to make her look good. There were moments in things like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane where it's great. If anyone has not seen that movie, watch it. It's magnificent. But apparently she also said, and I quote, "I only want to be filmed from a certain side. It makes me look younger." So it's like caked with makeup, like to make her look incredibly younger than she had any right to be at the time, and saying like, "No, I want to be filmed this way or this way," or she would rewrite the line to make it suit for her. So she was the first kind of like, you know, we all know about movie divas, but she was like queen movie diva. So put that with someone who's already quite difficult to work on set. Have them combine like some kind of Megazord.
God, it's just amazing. There are times where she looks like she's transforming into a Megazord as well.
That's the way she transformed was terrifying.
There's a bit that I can't wait to talk about where she says she's almost like she's charged up for a special move or something, like Blanca.
It's fucking brilliant. It's fucking brilliant. But that's the thing, is she's become so absorbed, right? And these are quotes from people on the set, apparently. Apparently people despise Faye Dunaway because she was rude to people. Everyone was on pins and needles when she worked and relaxed when she wasn't on set. There were moments where she demanded more screen time for certain things because she felt that was good, that was better for the case. Apparently, they'll also claim that she also asked directors and certain things to make other people, and I quote this, make them look plainer and simpler so it doesn't outshine her.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. Literally, Dunaway was out of control. She was completely out of control on set. To the point also, she was also famously tardy. Just like Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was also someone who was famously tardy on set. Which would help, like the show would be held up. I don't know. This is the thing that's scary. Is this just actually Faye Dunaway, or is this her going full method?
Wow.
Where does this blur?
I think it's a lethal combination of the two. Yeah. Do you think she was worse than Cobra? Like Stallone. I keep bringing up Stallone in Cobra every time. But he was meant to be like really tardy, wasn't he?
He was very tardy. He missed full scenes because he was just doing stuff with his buddies. But I think there's a difference here. I think Stallone was just ego.
Yeah.
Right? Stallone was ego because he was literally the biggest action star ever at the time, right? Big, right?
But Faye did have the blinded by Joan Crawford ego kind of thing going on, didn't she?
I think basically it's method acting ego.
Yeah.
The ego that she already knows that Faye Dunaway is already a great actress because she's just got the Oscar. She got the Oscar for Network. She's been trying to get the second Oscar ever since, basically, and she's been doing for that. Then she goes method. She goes method, who's someone who's famously this way. She becomes so absorbed that she becomes literally this literal monster on set and becomes incredibly difficult. And so that brings a whole different tier. And a very famous story was that the director was not just fighting Faye Dunaway on set, but also was fighting two co-producers at the time who were Christina's husband, David Kuntz, right, who was the executive producer credit, because basically as to represent Christina, because Christina wasn't on set at all for any of the filming. And then Faye Dunaway's like a fiance going to turn husband, Terry O'Neill. So basically you've got Faye Dunaway's husband, and then you've got Christina Crawford's husband, both saying to the director, certain things. Like, for example, so basically, like, David would go and say, Christina wants Joan Crawford to look like an actual monster. Like, we have to really show that this is child abuse and take it seriously. While the husband's saying, like, well, Faye Dunaway's husband's like, well, we want to show Joan Crawford to be we need to show her that she's not just a monster. We have to find the reasoning behind it. So they were both wanting two very different approaches. They were all handsy on the director saying, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. Failed miserably, I think, in balancing this out. And I quote, I think basically he actually said, according to Frank Labins and Frank Perry, they said, I had two husbands to deal with. David was driving me crazy that Faye was trying to sanitize Joan, and Terry worried that we were pushing Faye too far and creating a monster. So one was saying, you got to make her more evil, and the other one was like, don't make her more evil. And
and the result speaks volumes from that story, because it's like, it is just yo-yoing, isn't it, in the movie? You can't, it's not balanced at all. You can't keep up with it. It's going from one thing to the other, and it's like, it's sensitive now for a moment, then it'll go up to level 10 in intensity the next.
Sometimes within the same speech.
Yeah.
We'll get to one speech in particular I love. In fact, I'm wondering if you got the sound clip, actually. If you don't, I'll add it in. But there is one particular part that made me laugh really loudly, and it was basically after Joan Crawford has the meeting with the director of MGM, I believe it was, right? They're at the dinner party, and he's going out with the boyfriend at the time, right? They have a big conversation, like a bit of like a bickering in the bedroom before he walks out, and one bit it's like saying, she's talking very, very quietly, and so I'm just sick and tired of all this. I'm not a floozy to be thrown around with.
Why are you screaming?
Because I'm damn mad.
And it's like, from quiet, it's like, because I'm mad, damn it, and then just takes a seat and puffs a cigarette away. I'm like, where did that come from? So this is where obviously it led to the famous camp performance, because clearly it shows that you got a director who couldn't handle all the producers and everything else. You got a method actress who's gone absolutely method insane, doesn't know how to handle her. You've got the thing being rewritten multiple times. And so by the end of it, they just happened to get the movie out. But they generally still thought they had something here. They generally still thought that this was going to be the thing, right? They were generally saying, like, this is going to be an Oscar contender. They genuinely thought this, right? So when they first launched the movie out, it's literally, like I said, it's like, Faye Dunaway is Joan Crawford, mother, lover, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's like saying, like, this is the role of a lifetime. The movie comes out, it's horribly panned, which I've got some amazing criticism for it. And then to the point that it becomes a farce. When it becomes a farce, the producer, Frankie Evans, actually tries and successfully sues Paramount for $5 million in damages.
Wow.
For literally saying, like, no, I made a psychological drama. You are promoting it incorrectly by calling it a comedy. I want damages. $5 million is given to him.
Do you think when it was being filmed and you're like watching like dailies back and stuff like that, do you think it could have been perceived, it could have been looked at as like an Oscar winner at that time, in your opinion? Or do you think they would just kind of believe in their own hype kind of thing?
This is what's interesting, because I feel like we have seen movies like this before, right? And we've seen big performances before. And sometimes people, I think, generally thought that big performances equaled Oscar bait, right? Like, oh, it's real. It's about child abuse. It's about Hollywood. You've got the biggest actress in the world right now playing the former biggest actress in the world right now. If you really look at it on paper, based off a book that was hugely successful, if you look at it on paper, it is Oscar bait down to a T. Yeah. Right? The people who love the Oscars love this kind of stuff, right? They love it. But I think they were looking at the dailies. I think they were blinded by the fact that, look, I don't think they expected that. Look, Faye Dunaway is renowned, but of course she was so method. She went so big that I think people saw that going like, we're not going to question her. She's already a monster as it is. I can't direct her.
I know. Sometimes when you're seeing isolated scenes, there's a difference between, it might have seemed like intense acting, but it might have not seemed like overacting at the time, you know?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If you watch some scenes in isolation, because there are some scenes in this movie that are actually really good. Like there are some really like emotionally deep scenes. Like some of them are like genuinely like, oh, I've remembered you can act. Like what happened here?
Yeah.
So, you know, some of the producers were looking at this going, this is gold. This is going to get us the Oscar, guaranteed. And then it happened there. So this is what I actually asked. So I actually asked around, and I asked a few people, some of my actor friends, to review some of Faye Dunaway's performance in this movie. And I talked to a few people. I talked to my friend Stevie Doe. I talked to Charlie Clark for a little bit, fellow friend of the show, and Chris Chambers, who was a guest on a previous episode on Zodiac.
Yeah.
And so I got some feedback, but I've got Chris's here. And this is what he thinks. He basically believes in a couple of things. He firstly believes that he hasn't seen it in a long time, so he's seeing the clips out of context. I didn't tell him to watch the movie. I told him to see the clips, right? And so he said this, like, I guess one of my major problems with Dunaway is during this period, what she believed to be big acting was basically constantly bellowing like a banshee. She basically feels like intensity is loud, which this is why I feel like some people might have gone over and said, well, you know, she's just being intense because she's just being loud and screaming and crunching her face up, which is, yeah, I'd see that's fair. Objectively, though, I would say that the problem with Mommie Dearest could be pretty much a directorial one. The director seems unprepared to help the actors add texture and any kind of variety to the performance. Hard, soft, quiet, loud. There's nothing to build in between. There's no texture. It's just either you are hard or you're soft. You're either loud or you're quiet. There's nothing to build there. It's a possibility that Dunaway was such a star that no one dared to broach the subject of acting and criticize her in any way. And because of the method acting she was gone through and her being a monster and a director who just didn't know how to handle her, I think it was a thing. Because Faye Dunaway actually then says at some point that she blames the director for this, for not directing her right.
Yeah, I think he lost total control, didn't he? I think, in my opinion. I don't think he wasn't really directing it properly, was he? He wasn't really directing, I don't think.
I think what happened is like they released a monster. They made a monster and just said, I ain't touching that.
I know. It is crazy to say, like, oh, you're promoting it wrong afterwards. Well, you should have done a better job directing it then, if that's how it's come out.
That's exactly the case. This feels like a director who couldn't handle this kind of movie. The producers basically bickering, and a crazy method actress who couldn't be tamed. Which led to some very, very interesting reviews. Let's read some of these reviews, shall we? So basically, according to this, roughly at the time, it was considered a box office flop for the fact that it had it only made $16 million, but the budget was 10, so it didn't make double its money. So it was considered a flop, right? The reason why it did so well was because of all the midnight screenings afterwards. So that's the reason why it had some fame. Now, Roger Ebert basically gave it a 1-star review and said, I can't imagine who would want to subject themselves to this movie, calling it basically unrelentingly depressing, not to any purpose of drama or entertainment. It's just depressing me, and it left me feeling very creepy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think at the time a lot of people, especially critics, would understand camp?
Good question. I think some people would, because because there are famous like campy movies before this, right? And there are famous campy game shows and TV shows. There's loads of stuff that's full of high camp, which is, if anyone's not really aware of the term camp, it's like basically it's heightened drama where it's taken seriously but so high up that it becomes almost farcical, right? So like this is why drag queens love camp, because they can then wear the big hair, the ridiculous outfits, and all that kind of stuff, and try and portray themselves as a serious character, but in this big, over-elaborate way.
I mean, there's lots of ways it can be portrayed. I would say that Malignant was camp.
Yes.
So there's lots of different ways a film can be camp. But yeah, I think this was definitely... It might have been not been seen as that by some people. They might have not been able to see it that way, you know?
Yeah, and and I think like the thing is, this is a movie that's clearly either been directed as camp, but no one on stage, no one else was told that, or, and this is my personal opinion, I think they stumbled onto it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think that
they stumbled into pure camp. If I would argue this was purposely camp, this is secretly. The director's secretly a genius, right?
Yeah.
If they purposely made camp. But it feels like the producer just wanted to make this movie made. I think in any nook or crook, just wanted Oscar bait stuff because that's what they heard. And director just wanted to make a movie by the sound of things. Something strange about it. Other people have said, for example, that Dunaway does not chew the scenery. Dunaway starts neatly in each corner of the set in every scene and then swallows it whole. There's co-stars and everything. Wow. That's I would call that a bit harsh, but oh goodness. There are some positive stuff though. Some people actually praise Faye Dunaway, saying that it is a terrific Joan Crawford and plays like a limp parody of a bad Crawford film. Which, if you've seen any Joan Crawford films, like especially the later ones in her lifetime, when she started doing what's considered to be almost like a subgenre of itself of old lady horror.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's difficult to like know really who she was, like from an outside looking in, because you can only see the perception of how she was in films, can't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And the people who only know are people in her circle and so on. Now, the thing is, we're not belittling anything that Christina Crawford said. It sounds like, you know, she's had some horrible child abuse and a very manipulative mother. But this is the thing, though. Christina Crawford actually quoted on what she thought of the movie. And she actually said, and I quote, "My mother doesn't deserve that." And this is Christina Crawford talking about her abusive mother. She said, "My mother doesn't deserve that. Faye Dunaway's performance was ludicrous. I don't see any care for factual information. Now that I've seen it, I'm sorry I did. Faye says she was being haunted by my mother's ghost. And after the performance, I can understand why." She basically says that even this, she's like, look, my mother was a manipulative, horrible woman, but she is not this.
It was a real kind of witch character, wasn't it? That's why I was saying it feels like a horror film, like a cult horror comedy kind of weird thing, because it's very much like a wicked witch character, and I don't think she was that sort of intense. I don't know. It's difficult to know.
I think if Joan Crawford was going to be that, I think Joan Crawford had moments of genuine like sympathy, and I bet you she had some heart because she's in there. But this entire movie makes her seem like she's constantly at odds with her daughter, constantly can switch on a dime. And this is the thing is, I know why. Apparently there were several scenes that were shot but ultimately cut. And all the scenes, I'm going to tell you now, basically show Joan Crawford having a little bit of a soul.
All right, okay.
So for example, and also showing this idea that Joan Crawford is a strong woman. Like she was basically like, she's a woman that was strong and could do things independently. And a lot like scenes, there's a scene, for example, where Joan Crawford was depicting hurting her ankle during the filming of Ice Follies in 1939. And the crew decides basically wanted to tend for her, but Crawford just gets up on her own, right? There's little scenes like that where it's all like, you know what? It's her trying to maybe explain why she's doing it and saying like, and which by the sound of things is like, I want to toughen you up because I had a shit childhood and I came up to be like this. If you can survive this, you can survive anything.
That is literally all they focus on though. Usually in these kind of movies, they make the audience kind of warm to the antagonist, like in terms of like they show what they've been through in a way, and when you get to that point, it's so much more tragic when you get to the end and you hate them by the end. But it's there's in this film. You hate them you hate Joan Crawford from the beginning all the way through, don't you?
From moment one.
At the same point, you love to hate. It's a weird thing. You love to hate there.
The best way to do this is, I think we should talk about our favorite moments, because we can do the entire plot, but doing the entire plot's almost nonsense because it goes through, like we said, 40 years. We don't need that. And so what I think is one of our favorite scenes of this movie, and we can try and describe why we like it, why we think it's crazy. What do you think? So,
well, my clips are actually, they are in sequence of the movie, but they're all just my favorite bits in sequence, kind of thing.
Cool. So let's do that then. Let's go our favorite scenes in sequence, and we go from there. So start off with what you go first, and we go back and forth.
Right. So let's start off with this clip. I'll play it and then we'll explain it.
Go for it.
Caroline, help me with this. Helga, when you polish the floor, you have to move the tree. If you can't do something right, don't do it at all.
I'm sorry, Miss Crawford.
All right, give me the soap. See, Caroline, you have to stay on top of things every single minute. Okay. Caroline, do you get that?
Yes, Miss Crawford.
I love this. I love the line. It's coming.
I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the dirt. Yes!
It's a good line. I suppose at that point, you are kind of warmed to her a little bit because you're thinking, well, she's mucking in with the servants and stuff. She's getting involved and she's making sure it's all right. And she's not just watching them do it. She's actually, doing it herself as well and mucking in there. But it gets progressively worse, all that cleanliness obsession.
And this is the thing, there are enough nuggets to assume why she goes cuckoo bananas, right? But you're thinking okay, so she is someone who is a bit of a clean freak. And we know this from that scene alone. And by the sound of things, I think she's always been that way. She has a very particular thing of cleanliness. I mean, the very opening of the movie is going through the makeup routine, which is she gets up at 4 in the goddamn morning, literally by the sound of things, burns her face and then puts her face in an ice bath.
It's almost like a tooled up montage, isn't it? Like getting
it's ridiculous.
Tooled up.
Do you know what's scary though? That sequence reminded me. Do you know when I was watching it? It reminded me of in American Psycho where Christian Bale is going through
the face mask and going through all these different moisturizers and face tonics and stuff.
Then I apply an herb mint facial mask, which I leave on for 10 minutes while I prepare the rest of my routine. I always use an aftershave lotion with little or no alcohol, because alcohol dries your face out and makes you look older. Then moisturizer, then an anti-aging eye balm followed by a final moisturizing protective lotion.
It's that kind of level of bizarre, right? So it already shows that she's somewhat weird and superhuman, right? Because she gets up early in the morning, literally kind of sound of things, burns her face with hot water and really stiff soap, dips her head into the ice, and then goes off on set. It's a long process. And then she has this bit where she's cleaning up in the house, and I still quote to this day, I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the dirt.
I know. I've actually got another clip as well. It's from the same scene, because I loved this.
You're early.
Only an hour and a half.
Take your shoes off. I just washed that floor.
What about the socks?
Dramatic pause.
The dramatic pause. And then
I can handle the socks.
The socks.
The thing is, the pause, she goes, it's sort of like she goes into focus, into camera, into a close-up. It lingers on her face for ages, and she just says the line, I can handle the socks. And I burst out laughing on that, because I was like...
I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what a what an amazing sort of pickup line, because right afterwards they just bang in the shower. So Greg becomes basically, I believe, husband number 3, I think, or at least fling number 3 in this movie, because we don't see the other 2, but there's definitely mentioned.
And they're all called Uncle, aren't they?
They're all called Uncle, which is, personally, I find that really creepy, by the way. I'm not sure if anyone else does not find that creepy.
Well, yeah, it's kind of weird because that when you're young, you used to have like friends of the family that were called aunties and uncles and stuff. Yeah. Like if you had multiple friends of the families that were close to the family, they were called uncles and aunties. That's weird.
It is a bit weird, not gonna lie.
Yeah, and it quickly gets on to like the fact that she develops this obsession with like wanting a baby, doesn't she? And immediately she tries to do it the traditional way. So I've got a clip from when she's rejected by the adoption office.
I'm afraid I have some difficult news for you, Miss Crawford. The agency has denied your application for adoption.
Why?
Well, you live alone. There's no other family member in the home. You have 2 previous divorces.
Mm-hmm.
You're a busy, active woman, and the candidate is found to be an unsuitable parent.
Oh.
Unsuitable?
Thanks, Miss Crawford.
Don't you dare judge me.
We have a moral and legal responsibility in this job.
So you don't understand. What you're really doing is denying one of your children the opportunity to live a wonderful and advantaged life. How sad that is.
I've only just noticed in that scene, because I'm just hearing the audio.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I don't know whether it is, but it sounds like there's rain and thunder in the background. But I really hope there is.
It would be a moment where it's almost like her dark, evil witch turn. It's like, how sad are you? You will not let me have a child.
I know. I mean, she actually believes she can do it the traditional way to begin with, doesn't she? She has hope there.
She has hope,
but then she ends up just getting Greg to sort it out and like throw money at him.
I love how Greg sorts it out. It's just like, don't worry, I got it. I love how this is the thing when I'm talking about speed running. We don't see any scene how he does it. He just said, don't worry, I got you the kid. Almost like it's some kind of like, look, I found this kid in the back of a truck. It almost feels like that.
I guess you're supposed to believe that the people involved, she's involved with, are supposed to be so powerful money-wise that they can get anything they want.
Yeah, because, she's working for MGM and all these people and going like, hey, you are a big time Hollywood lawyer. You can talk to that. Maybe you can get some of my producer people. I'm under contract with these people. Maybe they could pay a little something to get the pay. And so, yeah, so that's when Christina comes in and then you get a very nice sort of scene. She's holding her very tightly, although I'm not entirely sure she's holding her correctly, and almost like, I'll call you Christina.
There's
Christina,
a wicked
darling.
shot where she first gets given the baby and she walks up and she stands in the top of the staircase and there's a window behind her. It's obviously her home's like really beautiful and there's a real like, so it's like an Art Deco kind of like staircase.
Yes.
And she's like, it's the perfect like poster shot, isn't it? Really, with her with the baby. If you wanted to portray the poster in a nice way, you'd use that image.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. So, like, this is the thing as well. Like, the movie is surprisingly well, like choreographed, and the cinematography is really, really nice in some cases.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's not an ugly movie. So it's not like we're not going to call this a trash tape for being an ugly movie. This movie's pretty, and there's some very nice transitions as well. Like, there's a shot where I love this one shot I remember very vividly. Like Joan Crawford's in the shower, and then right afterwards, it cuts from the shower directly into a fountain, and then you see them outside. It's like, oh, this is clever, very good, very clever stuff.
Yeah, well, it had some kind of like Hollywood look to it, didn't it? For it to kind of so that they at least got that bit right.
They definitely do.
But I wanted to move on to because after that you see a lot of like Christina when she's younger, and it kind of focuses on that for a bit. And there's a lot of like sweet stuff going on. Like, she gets a big party with like like a merry-go-round, all kind of things like that.
And it's quite sweet because it's they look very sweet and loving, and this is like the beginnings of their relationship.
They've got the same outfit on and everything.
It's adorable. But there are a few little moments. Like you can see sort of like Joan's getting a little annoyed. Not at her, but at people around her as well. Going like, doing a little, stop telling my daughter what to do, blah, blah, blah kind of vibe.
I know, but I want to speed up to when it starts to get competitive, because I love when they start getting competitive. My next clip is when Christina's still young at this point, but it's the swimming. You know, when she's swimming.
Yes! I adore this scene.
So let's have a play of that and let's talk about that.
You lost again.
It's not fair. You're bigger than I am. It's not fair to win twice.
But nobody ever said that life was fair, Tina. I'm bigger and I'm faster. I will always beat you.
Jesus
Then I'm not
Christ.
gonna play with you anymore. Ever.
Oh dear.
You ever use that tone of voice with me, Missy?
The reason why I love that clip, do you remember it reminded me, and why it made me laugh, like the whole competitive thing, when that sort of age, when she was that age, Christina, is the Fast Show had a character called Competitive Dad. Do you remember?
Yes! Oh my God, it
and
did!
I have got a clip. It totally works with this. I'll play that.
Go for it.
Right, come along, Toby. You'll go. Quick. 4. No, I'll do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mayfair. My property. My hotel. That'll be £2,000, please, young man.
I've only got £300 left.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but you must pay the fee demanded. £2,000, please.
He's only got 300, love.
I'd rather you didn't interrupt, dear. He must learn the value of money. Now, can you take a note, please? Jot this down. At 7:41 on the 24th of October, don't worry about the year, Toby Johnstone could not pay the sum of £2,000 after landing on his father's property.
Play the game, love.
Now, I shall be taking out of your pocket money, and of course I will be charging you interest at the current rate.
So that sums the whole thing up. But that's why it made me laugh, because that whole competitive nature, like an adult against a child, like thrashing her at swimming and stuff like that, it reminded me of Competitive Dad in the Fast Show. It's ludicrous to have it portrayed that way. That's what it's hilarious.
And this is the thing. It starts to seed off. Like, this is pretty obvious to me. I can kind of already tell why Joan Crawford's doing this. Is because it's clear that Joan Crawford has always been competitive anyway, right? And Joan Crawford is trying to almost prove, I guess, through this that life isn't fair, so I'm going to make things slightly unfair for you so you can be a strong, independent woman like me. But she does this completely the wrong way. Like, it is true. She is doing this completely unfairly.
Yeah, it's so extreme.
It's such an extreme jump.
My next clip is it's good. It's a good segue actually, because you were talking about extreme.
Yes.
I've got a clip of the cutting of Tina's hair, which is pretty crazy.
Oh,
I'll play. I'll play it.
It's so cringe.
I'm so grateful to you all, my wonderful fans, who have made me a star. Mommy.
What do you think you're doing?
Nothing, Mommy. I was just playing.
What do you mean, playing? Pawing through my things? Making fun of me?
I wasn't making fun of you. I was just trying to... I was acting. Play acting. Like you're always doing.
Look at yourself.
Ow!
What have you done to you? Tina, what have you put on your head? What have you done to this damn...
Sorry. Ow! It was just setting lotion. Oh, Mom, ow!
doing? Don't you tell me what I'm doing. Don't tell me, don't.
Oh, no. Mommy, I look awful.
Yeah, I know you look awful. You be quiet. You're always rummaging through my drawers, trying to find a way to make people look at you. Why are you always looking at yourself in the mirror? Why are you doing that? Tell me. You sit still now. This ought to teach you. You're vain.
Mommy, I can't go to school like this.
I'd rather you go bald to school than looking like a tramp.
Every time Christina is like play acting, pretending to be a mother, I think it's actually because she secretly, in a way, kind of idolizes her, and she's kind of in her mother sees that as thinks that people are making fun of her behind her back, doesn't she? Even her daughter, and it's quite sad when she sees her doing that and punishes her for basically just trying to be like her mother, you know.
I mean, I think in a secret way, not just being her mother, it's the idea that, you know, I think to a degree, she struggles, I think, with maybe accepting the fact that her daughter might become an actress and maybe become a better actress, because there are loads of moments where she's starting to do acting. It's like, I'm play acting just like you do, Mum. And, you know, it's in a sense that's supposed to be quite sweet. It's the idea of going, oh, she wants to be like me.
Yeah.
But instead, Joan sees her as a threat. You're not like me, you bitch.
I know, and it's so extreme because she sees it as a threat at that age when Christina's so young and she's playing with her dolls.
She's 5 or something. Are you thinking, woman, she is no threat to you. Calm your tits. Basically, because just before then, she gets some very good news. She's got the good news. She basically gets the part for Mildred Pierce, right? So she gets the part, the big part that, you know, this eventually gets her the Oscar, right? This is her big part, right? So it's actually quite nice to see her. She gets all excited, like, I got the part. She's hugging the maid. She's running around. She's like, I got to tell Christina, in a good mood. When she is not in her room and she goes and finds her in her room, in her mum's room, basically, like there she is in the bedroom, being this actress thing, instead of being like, oh, that's really sweet, I'm really good news and you're doing that. It feels like, what's this bitch doing? Like, literally, I've never seen her so antagonized.
I know, and it's crazy how you get that flip, because she should still be on a high.
Yes,
from getting that role, but immediately she has this schizophrenic flip, doesn't she? And that happens loads. My clips are deliberately schizophrenic at times. Like, I've got like a soft clip, and then I've got like a very angry, intense clip, because that's how the movie flows.
This way. Go get it, Christopher. Come on, Christopher. Get it, Christopher. Yeah, I got it. Get it. All right.
Christina! Christopher! Damn it. I have asked you to keep the children quiet today. And for Christ's sake, get them out of the garden.
I'm sorry, Joan.
Have Tina bring me up my coffee.
This leads to one of my favorite scenes. I think I'm not sure if it happened just a little bit before this or a little after. I'm not sure. There's a bit because of all that. But there's several scenes that kind of make me feel, Joan's being a little bit off with this. And shows how surprisingly schizophrenic she can be, or manipulative. So this one is when she has her meeting with the head of MGM, and they basically go and say, like, we're going to let you go, right? We're going to let you go, and we're going to do this in the most pleasant way possible. I'm doing this because at the end of the day, I see you can do better somewhere else. You're not making us money. Basically saying, like, woman, you're old. You're not making us money. You are box office poison. But I feel you can do better somewhere else. So we're going to do this amicably. We're going to pay you out the rest of the contract and go. And that scene, she's sort of like very sort of, you know, she's very poised. She's crying, but she's trying to keep her composure and say, should you walk me back to the car? Right, you know, I am, of course, movie royalty after all.
I know, it's interesting that she never loses it with him, does she? Even when she's lost her job, she's so desperate that she wants to cling on to it, that even when she's been told she's we're letting you go, she's still not going crazy.
But then the scene right after this,
it cuts dramatically to her chopping up the roses in her garden aggressively.
Angrily.
And
Yes.
I've got a clip of that, of course. But I've got, it's also like a little montage of it because it's quite a long scene.
Yes.
So first you'll hear her chopping, and then you'll hear like sort of bits interacting with the maid and the kids.
Hollywood royalty. Oh, my parted friends. Everyone.
She sounds crazy, right?
Tina! Bring me the axe.
Oh my God.
So there's quite a long sequence. The entire sequence it takes to like chop down this tree, like real time. But that's actually a very long, intense, screamy scene. I've just got the gist of it there.
But I love that because she basically then demands in the middle of the night, it's like 3 a.m. The maid wakes up, demands the kids to help her fix the garden, which is basically she's gone on a literal insane flippity doodah. I don't know what this was. She should. I mean, look, she might be emotionally upset, but that is. You need care. Someone needs to come over and take care of you at this point, right? Like you don't let anyone that nuts go near any kind of sharp object. And she's just doing that.
What's great though in that scene is the reaction of the kids and the maid.
Yeah.
Because they're like faces are like, oh shit! I don't. They're like they're sort of like on like eggshells, aren't they? Kind of like stuff. They've got to hand her the axe, but they're just like doing it so slowly and delicately. Okay, is she gonna chop us up now? I don't know.
It's scary. It's kind of scary. Like it is scary, especially like it seems like Christina has a look on her face, right? Christopher. Bless him. He's still running around going, doing his little cute little thing, trying to pick up all the branches with his own hands. Christina goes and gets a wheelbarrow, but she looks like a combination of things. One is like, Mum's doing this weird thing again. Like, this isn't the first time she's done this. But when she says like, Tina, give me the axe. And you can see the look on her face is like, this is new.
I know. Well, what's sort of scary about that kind of situation is that when kids are in that kind of a crazy abusive situation,
yes,
stuff like that can be a normal day.
That is terrifying.
I know, but that's why I think it's good that the kids don't react in such a shocked kind of way, because it is kind of a normal event for them,
Yeah, I feel like the gardening is definitely a thing. I think the axe is new, which is why I love her face is like, the axe? You've never asked for the axe before, Mum? Mommie Dearest? You never asked for the axe!
But not long after that, it gets to the whole, like, the waiting for the awards results.
Yes,
of the Oscars. And that's kind of a happy scene, isn't it? Let's play that.
Play it.
God, I hate this night! It turns every year into a crisis. I wish I did have pneumonia. I wish I was raging mad over the flu. And a fever, so I wouldn't have to even listen.
Now, for the best female performance in a leading role, the nominees are Ingrid Bergman for The Bells of St. Mary's, Joan Crawford for Mildred Pierce.
And this is the thing, like everyone's like at this point like on eggshells, but also like in a very excitedly positive mood.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Jones for Love Letters.
You're gonna win. I know it.
May I have the envelope,
Picture
please?
is a hit. Shh.
And the winner is Joan Crawford for Mildred Pierce. Accepting for Joan Crawford is the director of Mildred Pierce, Michael Curtiz.
What's crazy, that's one of the most tense scenes, isn't it? Even though it's like a happy scene, is because it could go either way here. She could win it, and they're all actually really confident that she's going to win. Like they're not just saying like, you know, they're not just saying that to make
Christina
her happy.
even actually says, like, I know you're going to win it, Mum. Like, everyone seems to be very positive about it, right? And then, you know, she goes out afterwards. When she wins, she goes and sees her fans, all the press outside of her house, because the whole point is she couldn't make it because she's got pneumonia. So she can't technically attend because she's sick, basically. So she couldn't be there for her own award ceremony, which you can imagine might have annoyed her a little bit. But the fact that she's won it, she goes outside and says, my fans, I have done this all for you. And you're the reason why I do all this stuff, right? In a very sort of positive, kind of slightly campier way, I guess. Like she's throwing her arms up and going, thank you, everyone.
I know, and that's a real sort of high point, isn't it? Like a really happy point. She just won the award. But then literally, I think that, like, the next scene is the famous no wire hanger scene. We go in, like, pretty much after that high point.
Yes.
We go into this.
No wire hangers! What's wire hangers doing in this closet when I told you no wire hangers ever?
Oh my God. It's intense.
Work till I'm half dead and I hear people saying she's getting old. What do I get? A daughter! Who cares as much about the beautiful dresses I give her as she cares about me?
Jesus Christ.
What's wire hangers doing in this closet?
Jesus Christ.
Answer me!
Oh,
I buy you beautiful dresses.
She has completely transformed
and you treat
here.
them like they were some dish rag. You two, $300 dress on a wire hanger. We'll see how many you've got in Eden from here.
Yeah, I also have to remember there's a very funny visual with this happening.
Get out of that bed.
Jesus Christ.
All of this is coming out. Out.
Please.
She's completely destroyed the wardrobe. Completely.
We're gonna see how many wire hangers you've got in your closet.
Jesus Christ.
Why? Christina, get out of that bed.
Yeah. So and then she just starts beating Christina with the wire hanger.
Hangers.
It's horrible.
It's horrible, right? But here's the thing as well. You also got to remember there's a visual with this. So Joan Crawford is just kind of wrapping up her beauty regime, right? She's just so she has the face makeup. She's got, like, you know, the face mask. She's got her hair like in a particular bomb. She's got a weird thing where she wraps her head in bandages to keep her, I don't know, her chin in form. I have no idea. But she's got a beauty regime. So she's in full beauty mode, right?
Yeah, she's got like a white, greasy face, and she's got like a face pack on or something. And it's like, it makes her face look very scary and pale.
It's thick, right? Really thick. And so she's just popping in to see the kids, right? She's popping into the kids, seeing how she's done. She's kind of in a positive mood. And then she sees, out of everything, somehow one wire hanger. Now, here's the thing, right?
Hang on. I'll just say, I don't think she is, though, because I've watched. I don't think she's positive. I think she goes into the room already holding a wire hanger. So she's found one somewhere else in the house, and she's inspecting the house for more wire hangers. I'm pretty sure.
And then she finds another one in the thing. So, but she's almost like browsing through, like almost like but not like in an angry way, almost like, And apparently there's a genuine reason for this wire hanger information. Apparently, according to sort of like a documentary about Mommie Dearest and about Joan Crawford, the infamous no wire hangers come to be because Joan Crawford's mother apparently worked in a dry cleaners during a very difficult time in Joan Crawford's life, and thus triggers bad memories because apparently Mummy would also do this exact same thing to her. So basically, her thought pattern is she lives in a house of absolute wonder and she has $300 dresses. Why are you doing it with like a poor man's hanger? Why are you hanging this with a poor man's hanger when you could do something so much better? So in a very sort of backwards way, she's saying, what do you think we are? Poor? This is a $300 dress.
I know. Well, it is technically true that wire hangers do ruin some clothes, but
but this is such an overreaction. You would just go and say, I'll just take the wire hanger away and I will put a new one in there and problem solved. I wouldn't destroy the entire wardrobe.
I know. You'd think the movie would need a little context there, wouldn't you, to explain that in a way?
I think the movie's missing half of this context because we are speed running through her entire life without a moment to breathe. Because after this, and this is a thing, they go into the bathroom and say, like, have you cleaned the bathroom today? Like a literal full-blown crazy. Like, have you cleaned the bathroom? Drags her into the bathroom and says, like, look at this dust. It's dirty. Do you call this clean? And starts just fucking with like the powdered soap, just fucking flipping it everywhere.
I know, it literally just covers it. And the thing is, as well, that the bathroom looks spotless. It looks really clean.
It looks really clean already.
It's one of those like where there's tiling on the floor, tiling on the walls, and everything is gleaming and she's running around trying to find this dust that you can't actually see, you know. And and then she makes a mess to clean up.
Oh my God, it's backwards. It's backwards. This.
Yeah, there's just like powdered soap or bleach or whatever it is.
Yeah,
just everywhere. And she exits and turns around to Christina and says, like, just clean up this mess. And I know, actually, and then you get, she goes, how?
Because it's such a fucking mess. You made this mess, woman. And then she goes over and says, you figure it out.
But then, as her mother's left, he's got your favourite line, which, like an adult, what does she say?
So basically, literally at one point, you know, Christopher Caesars walks in and says, I'll help clean up. He says, don't worry. No, don't do it. She'll kill him. So Christopher goes back to bed. Although apparently Christopher needs to be strapped down, which I don't know what that's all about.
And that's not explained either, is it?
I don't know about that either. She gets strapped down, apparently. But then
that's very disturbing imagery when you see the straps on him, yeah.
I'm confused by that. But then she has a moment where she just looks around herself, like, just looks around as if she just absorbed what just happened for the last 5 minutes. Turns left, turns right, looks up and just goes,
Jesus Christ.
And I'm thinking, yes. I mean, look, I've seen this every time that scene happens. Whenever that line happens, Jesus Christ, I'm like, yeah, look, if this was the first time you've ever watched that scene, you too would go like, yeah, Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that?
It's almost like I expected to break the fourth wall and nod at the audience
like,
when
Jesus
she says,
Christ, am I right?
It's amazing.
And
it really is
this
amazing.
adds to the comedy to it because that was just, it's perfect timing for this fucking nonsense.
But then you get another extreme back to nice again, nice and happy, because the movie does this thing where it does this comedy within editing as well. Like, you know, in like comedies where you get an extreme thing happen and then you get a really happy, like soft, like la 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 thing happening. Because in the next scene, you see them on a Christmas special. And I've got a clip from that. Imagine like that intensity of the bathroom and the no wire hangers.
Yeah.
Then you cut to this.
Would all of you like to say the last two lines?
My God.
And I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
And good night to you, Miss Crawford. And thank you for allowing all of us to share your Christmas Eve.
And thank you, George, and Merry Christmas to you and to all your listeners.
And it's so sad because it's such a fake perception of happiness, isn't it? That's portrayed.
I mean,
in
it's
that
a very creepy scene, actually, because it makes you think like you've gone through that and then go to here, which makes you think two things. Is this scene like how manipulative is this scene? Has Joan Crawford just manipulated her kid to go and say, go along with this now? You saw what I did with wire hangers. You go along with this Christmas special and you show the world that we're a happy family. Damn it. It's like that.
she's pretty much almost when the kids are talking, she's almost mouthing their words, like she's feeding them their words.
It shows how much of a control freak, to a degree, Joan Crawford might have been, or at least what this version of this movie is showing. Like, she is in control. She wants to control everything. Like, one of the first early scenes of showing of control is when it was Christina's birthday party, very early on in the movie, and goes and says and she's like, "Oh, I love this doll so much." She says, "Is that your favorite toy?" "Yes, it is." "Well, then that means that's the only one you keep. We're going to give the rest of them to charity." And it doesn't look like Christina agreed to this. Basically, she's just like, "We're doing this because this is how I do my charity work, and this is why everyone loves me, because I give away presents and do charity work. You should do the same."
I know, and it's so sad because it would be great if that was because she wanted to give to charity, but no, it's because of the whole perception. She wants to be perceived as being someone that's charitable, especially this version of her anyway.
This version of her wants to say, like, everything's a look, because she's always talking about, we have a view, we have a vision. This is how people like us need to look. We need to look high glamour. We need to look this young. We need to look this pretty. We need to look this charitable. And so that Christmas scene pretty much sums up the sort of the fake persona that this family is going through. Soon after that, though, she grows. After that, though, she kind of starts not growing up, but she gets a little bit. Things speed up a little bit, because by that point, a few years sort of later on, obviously by this point, we no longer have Greg. Greg has been kind of shifted off somewhere. Like, boom, there he goes. No longer lawyer. We get a new sort of hunky stud come in. Oh boy, this new hunky stud in. And apparently, Christina knows how to make drinks. Apparently.
It's like 3/4 vodka or like scotch.
Yeah.
And then just a little bit of ice.
The scotch. It's like, no, but this is the drink I make to all my uncles. It's like, excuse me? It's nothing but scotch.
That's actually a really creepy scene, actually, because Christina is almost like acting like a woman in that scene when she's a kid. It's strange. She's like almost like acting like a waitress, isn't she? Like
and
a scary waitress that tries to like make everyone drunk. It's like, it's weird.
It's very weird, because this then leads to a bit where, as Joan and Mr. Hunky is sort of making out and doing things on the sofa, Christina gets I don't know whether purposely or not, whether to be polite or to stand out or whatever. I don't get the scene that much, but she goes and makes another vodka drink to refill for Mummy, basically. And it's like, "Mummy, I got you a bit of drink here, for you." Right in the middle of making out, kind of ruining her flow and kind of ruining the vibe that's happening here a little bit. Almost outshining her a little bit here.
I know, and I get the fact that I think it's almost like she wants her mother to make a fool out of herself. So she's deliberately making her mother drunk.
Yes.
So she'll make a fool out of herself like later on. And then she'll, because this is another part of their feud, isn't it? Their battle. Like she will then have won them because, haha, I've made you look silly.
Yeah, basically, like, I made you look silly. I made you look like a drunk for our new uncle, basically, right? Which the uncle says, like, "You've got quite a lady here, And then literally the next shot, Christina's going to boarding school. And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
I know. What I found interesting was you'd think she'd be like eager to get away in a way, because like she's not having a great time at home, is she? I suppose kids get used to a certain, like, get used to home regardless of how it is, I suppose. But she's just crying. She doesn't want to go there.
Yeah.
And I was quite surprised. I thought I should be like, well, see you later then.
But it's
a bit of peace and quiet.
I guess so. But also to a point, I think the reason why she didn't want to go is because she knows she's being punished for this. This is a punishment. She knows she's like, "No, you're not going to come and live in my home and with all my luxuries and all this stuff because of that." Basically. And there's loads of moments of feuding. Like, we missed a scene, which is the famous raw steak scene.
Christina, you haven't touched your lunch.
It's raw.
It's rare, not raw.
It's got all this red juice when I push on it.
Then don't push on it. Darling, rare meat is good for you. The doctor said so. Christina, meat loses its vitamins if it's overcooked.
But I've had my vitamins this morning. Pills.
She negotiates everything like a goddamn Hollywood agent. Christina, eat your lunch. You are not getting up from this table until you have finished that meat.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one because she's like pretty much starves Tina, isn't she? She like because she doesn't want this meat, so she says, "Well, I'll put it in the fridge then, and you can have it later."
Yeah.
But then there's this big standoff, isn't there? So she's not eating it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it's like it's there in front of her at the breakfast table, isn't it?
And they eat it. Like, eat it.
I know. And you can see Christina under her eyes. She's got like black under her eyes, like she's really sort of looking unwell.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Because here's the thing, though. Joan is basically forcing her to have not even rare steak. It's raw. Like, there's a difference between rare steak and raw. This is raw
There's
steak.
blood coming out of it, basically.
Yeah, but like rare steak has a bit of blood in it. Yes, it does. But it's still cooked to a degree. This is just raw meat. Right? Because, and I quote, Joan Crawford thinks like, you need to have this to have your vitamins and your irons. Like, that's bollocks. That's an absolute lie. So she just basically stands up for herself. It's like, no, I'm not going to eat the steak. This is not what I like. Could you cook it better, please? Don't force me to eat something I don't like. Right. And then all this is time is like, it's one-upmanship. It's like, you're gonna take this to your bedroom and you're gonna eat it and you're gonna leave it there. And then when Joan Crawford sees it there, puts it into gets it there, puts it over there again. It's like, you're trying to prove a point, basically. And it's like, you're not gonna win me, because the whole argument is like, no matter what you do, I'm going to win. I am bigger and faster than you. Da-da-da-da. Which then leads to, you try and outshine me, I'm going to put you in boarding school. If you're going to do this, I'm going to put you, if you try and outdo me later on, this is once you outdo me, I'm going to put you in a nunnery. That's a thing. You're like, Jesus Christ, stop it.
And Christina, she gets caught fooling around with a boy, doesn't she, in boarding school?
She does.
And that's immediately just like is what gets her. Well, it doesn't even get her chucked out. Basically, Joan pulls her out of school, and I've got a clip.
Yes.
Of that exchange in the office.
How could this happen? How could you humiliate me this way? I'm ashamed to be your mother. And you, how could you let this happen?
Both students have been put on probation and will have no privileges for a month.
Probation? This is appalling. I have devoted myself to making Christina a proper young lady. That boy should be expelled.
Now, Miss Crawford, when this sort of thing has happened before,
Before? Is this an institution of learning or a teenage brothel?
Chadwick has an impeccable reputation. And when students break the rules, we curtail their freedom.
We are leaving here right now. Obviously, she cannot be controlled in this environment.
Nothing really happened between your daughter and the young man. It was innocent.
No thanks to you.
I love this line.
I think you're overreacting, Miss Crawford.
And I think you're underreacting, Mrs. Chadwick.
I love that. I think you're overreacting.
My
Joe.
compliments to your school on its impeccable reputation. Christina, come on.
Yeah, that's the audience talking at that point. I think you're overreacting.
I love it. It's like,
overacting.
I think you're overacting here, and I just love the line. I love it as well. I think you're underreacting. It's like, oh my god, it's fantastic. So basically, this is the thing now. Christina's now pretty much I wouldn't say a full-grown woman, but she's become a woman. Like she's now in her mid to late teens, right? She's also doing a bit of acting. She gets dragged out of the school for quite literally, playing around with a boy. First time, not even getting anywhere, just innocent snuggles and a bit of kissing, maybe getting to some panty action, but never getting fully until she gets squealed by clearly the other girl who likes him kind of thing, which is, there's one line which is really, really funny where basically like they're playing around a little bit, like just before they're playing around, like in the theater, and the boy's just like jokingly like playing with a scarf with us and look at you, movie star, blah, blah, blah. And Christine's like, stop it. And the girl is literally in between looking at him, which I think maybe is like a boy girlfriend or crush, going like, yeah, seriously, stop it. Like, it's like, dude, you're getting scolded by this girl here who eventually rats on them. And this is what happens, basically. The woman scorned, I guess.
Yeah, and it's quite sad because obviously Christina, you know, she said before they start making out and everything, like she says like, well, are you going out with that, what's the name? And he goes, nah, we're just friends.
Yeah, basically.
She tries to do the right thing, like, but then obviously the boys being boys just says, no, we're just friends, let's get it on.
And then they're just playing around a little bit, but she gets dragged out. She gets pulled out. But this is the thing. At the same time, they're literally driving back at the same day. Said, look, I have a very big reporter coming in, doing me a front piece about this. Okay, so this is a very important thing to me. Do not embarrass me. And then Barbara's about. Barbara, please.
Barbara, please.
And oh God, this whole sequence is magnificent. It's my favorite scene. Really?
Well, before we get to that, though, I've got a clip as well. I love, you know, because you haven't talked about Pepsi Man, really. There's a small bit where she's with the sort of managing director of Pepsi Cola. It's like she's married to him for a bit.
Yeah.
And but I haven't got any clips of him. But what I love is he like just gets killed off screen, pretty much.
I love this.
And I love the board meeting.
Yeah.
That she has with the Pepsi people.
It is.
I love
amazing.
her line. It reminds me so much of RuPaul, actually.
It's very like sassy woman. It is amazing.
Let's listen to this.
Go on.
Don't fuck with me, fellas! This ain't my first time at the rodeo. You forget the press I delivered to Pepsi was my power. I can use it any way I want.
I love it.
It's a sword. Cuts both ways.
So sassy. I love it. One's like, oh.
The board has failed to realize the extent of your interest in the company, apart from Mel's position.
Mm-hmm.
We,
I love how it was like on sheepish, like,
we shall be
we're sorry.
pleased to have you stay on.
Lots of eye movement here, by the way. Lots of like
Thank you,
raised eyebrows.
Now let's get to work.
It's a proper boss bitch moment,
It
isn't
is
it? Like,
such a boss bitch moment. And it's also the fact you have to understand that in this performance, Faye Dunaway is all face. She is doing big eyes, big eyebrows. At one point, she even gets so mad she crosses her eyes at one point, which apparently I'm going to throw a little factoid here. All of the shouting she has done, especially during the famous wire hanger scene, right? Faye Dunaway actually mentions the fact that she had such a huge sort of thing that she's actually went completely hoarse doing this movie several times. And she had to go away for a while to get her voice checked. This is the ongoing full method. Apparently, this is rumor, she had a vocal specialist. Do you know who the vocal specialist apparently was?
No.
Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
So apparently,
amazing.
Called and say, Frankie, my darling, I've lost my voice. Tell me how to get my voice back. Frank Sinatra.
Thing is, though, Frank Sinatra was just a crooner. He didn't do any like big notes. He just kind of like almost talked.
I know, right? But you know what? It's just the idea of having Frank Sinatra as your vocal expert. And you know, I just imagine like all the phones like, please. Frankie, darling, you need to help me. It's like, oh, it's Faye again. It's Faye Dunaway again. God. There's only about 5 minutes of Pepsi Man who gets married, builds an apartment. They have a little bit of an argument about the apartment, which seems like, you know, again, it's like, we need to build a standard. And then literally right after that, it's like, we will figure it out. Don't worry. I love you. Boom. He's dead and we're in the boardroom. Like, fucking quick.
he does actually seem like a good kind of fit for her because he does actually stand up to her and tells her off for spending so much money. Like, there's got to be a limit of how much you're spending. I think what they're actually implying is that she gave him a heart attack because he couldn't cope anymore, you know? That's what they're probably implying.
There's also another part as well, basically, that he actually helps Christina, you know, with a bit of money and saying like, look, your mother might not want to help you, but I want to help you because I'm actually nice. Like, I don't do the tough love thing. I believe I should be giving that. So gives the money to her and says, look, here's like a couple of hundreds here, you know, help yourself.
Especially when, I mean, Christina's like pleading. She's almost broke at that point and he's still not getting any handouts from
I know. Like, at this point, she's become like adult and she's a full actress, but she's still finding work, you know, she's living it tough. And she's asking her famous actress mother to give her a couple of bucks. And Mummy says, not a fucking cent. Fucking tough love right there.
So let's move on to the bit you were going to talk about.
My favorite scene. It's my favorite scene.
She got the reporter there writing a piece on her.
Barbara.
Barbara in the other room, and Christina like says something a little bit out of turn, like that was a lie, kind of thing, about getting kicked out of. Yeah, she was expelled from boarding school. That was a lie. And,
yes,
go into the other room. Go into the room. So she goes off into the room and Joan goes over to talk to her
at the bar,
and they have this full-on like fight almost in the next room in the reporter's earshot. So Christina asks her this bold question of like, "Why did you adopt me?"
Yes, big scene. And
then she goes off on one, and this is actually a soundbite for our like trashometer.
Yeah, we use this bit for torture.
So let's play it.
I don't ask much from you, girl. Why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to?
My God.
Why can't you treat me?
Earning as well at this point.
Treated by any stranger on the street?
Because I am not one of your fans.
And then body slam. She fucking body slams her.
She's choking
and banging her head onto the table, onto the floor at this point. Jesus Christ! It is genuinely horrendous, right? But it's so funny because it's so intense.
It reminds me of wrestling, like WWE.
It's proper WWE wrestling. At this point, she goes... She hulks out at this point, literally like the Hulk.
So that bit, on the last bit, that clip where she goes, like that, it's a shot where she's kind of she's rising up from, she's like on top of Christina. She's kind of like rising up, and she almost like earlier I was saying, it almost looks like she's like charging up for a special move. Like she goes like, it's like she's gonna do a fireball or something.
She's about to do some kind of fatality. It's really that level of insane. Now here's the thing, apparently this scene was scary for everyone involved, because apparently, again, Faye Dunaway being so method at this point, you know, people were genuinely scared that she was actually going to like physically hurt her, and pretty much almost does, because at some point, like everyone around her, she's basically going a little bit too forcefully on the choke, a little too forcefully on the banging of the head thing, a little too much. And at one point, when she's being pulled off by everyone like Barbara and the maid, at one point hits one of them in the chest and makes them completely winded. It's in the movie. So literally just goes, ha! That little bit there literally nearly knocked a bitch out. Everyone.
I mean, it looks like a real fight, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's probably because it pretty much was.
It was, because literally saying, like, quote, apparently it was claimed that Dunaway went completely out of control when filming the scene when Joan attacks Christina in front of the reporter. And Carol Ann, who's the maid, gets to pull off her. She gets hit so hard and gets knocked over several times, leaving her completely winded. And apparently everyone was scared of basically saying, I think Faye Dunaway might murder someone. In that scene. Wow. It's Jesus Christ. It's a wonderfully beautiful car crash. It's insane how going from just very friendly with Barbara, starting to build up the intensity. Barbara, please.
Barbara, please.
And then just goes and literally body slams Christina through a glass table and then bounces her head onto the ground, choking her to death. It's the ultimate, well, that escalated quickly.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Obviously, Christina, at this point, almost feels a little bit like her performance as well. Like, she almost has to ham it up in the same way as Faye Dunaway is, because because Faye Dunaway is going full mental, and so that's why all the shouting and the performances by everyone here is very similar. Like, they're acting the same. It's like, I'm not one of your fans. It's the same way that Faye Dunaway was doing, and it's like, I can outact you. I can outshout you. I'm angry through a glass table.
Yeah, it's almost like Tommy Lee Jones trying to compete with Jim Carrey in Batman Forever.
Yes, it's like, look, you can't. There's some people who are just up here, right? They're like, some people are up here, and some people are way up there. Don't try. It's going to hurt. And literally did, because apparently, Christina had bruises after that scene.
God.
Christ. That could have literally ended several people's careers at that point.
Another bit I want to talk about is a little bit later on, where you still, like, they kind of seem like they're getting on again. Like, but the feud is kind of like still there, the rivalry.
Yes.
And I love the bit where Christina goes in the hospital for a bit.
Yeah.
So she can't do her soap opera role.
Yeah, because she's got like a tumor. Like, she's got like a tumor, basically.
And I find it hilarious that Joan just fills in, and her reaction to her, like, watching her mother on TV is great. Let's play that.
Go for it.
Your TV show's on. Don't you want to watch?
You have to remember that Christina's like literally on her deathbed here.
Without me. To see your mother. They just announced your mother is going to stand in for you until you're well.
It's ridiculous.
She can't.
She actually can't.
Character's only 28 years old.
The character's only 28 years old.
And
I love that.
It's true. Because, and this is the thing, this actually happened. Yeah. It's like, here is Joan Crawford, someone who is literally at this point in her late 50s, early 60s, trying to pass herself off as someone in their late 20s. And the thing is, there was no way of trying to write up, oh, this is, the character's mother coming in or a different character coming in to play the part. No, they're playing the same part. It is absolutely bonkers that the producers agreed to this. Apparently they did this for 4 episodes until they got some common sense, because people said, like, no one's watching this. This is fucking weird. So they just wrote the character off until Christina got better again, which is what you're supposed to have done in the first place. Jesus Christ. Oh,
crazy.
It's hilarious though, because she's wearing a wig, she's doing the thing, she's acting just like Joan Crawford anyway. She's not even acting like the character, just Joan Crawford, just being
and what's hilarious is she's actually terrible as well. She can't remember the lines.
It's
even
so
though
bad.
they're on cue cards, for God's sake.
Right
they're
in front
there.
of her.
So I imagine that was pretty much that could have been like, she could have been awful, you know, that could have been true, that kind of stuff.
Because I wouldn't be surprised, because she actually diminishes the idea of doing soap operas. Like, it's not like the movies, but it's good practice. You know what I mean? When realizing that actually it's pretty fucking hard doing a live action soap opera, you know, doing it live, soap opera-ish, doing it live and do with very little takes and having to stick with it. So it's ridiculous. And basically that's what you need to think about this movie, really. The movie is a series of bizarre sequences where happy things happen, sad things happen, really silly things happen, and it's really hard to balance. And so it is an absolute roller coaster. And so with that, I think it's safe to say it's about time that we do the Trashometer, shall we?
Trashometer.
Thank you. And if this is the first time you're listening to us, welcome. And thank you for joining us for Mommie Dearest. My God, this was a train wreck. And so we review things a little bit differently around here. We don't do like letter rankings, star rankings, or numbers or anything like that. We do something called a Trashometer, where we basically try and balance out whether the movie we watched, we've enjoyed the right level of trash. Was it trashy? Was it too trashy? Was it not trashy enough? So we start off in various stages. There's 5 steps. First of all, there is tame. Tame basically means that we found it boring. Like, it wasn't really trashy at all. Not like in a fun way. And we're not angry at it. We're just kind of bored, basically. Then you got tiny bit trashy. Tiny bit trashy means that there is some trash here to enjoy, but there could have been more there. It could have been more bits that we could have enjoyed, right? It's like, it could have gone a bit further. If it was a bit ballsy enough, it could have pushed some of the trash a bit more ahead. Then you've got it right in the middle. It's the perfect balance of trash. It's just perfect trash. It's right in the middle. It is quite literally the Oscar-winning performance of bad movies, right? Where it's perfectly good amount of fun and bad. Then you've got too trashy. Too trashy means we're now there's more bad coming in, and we're now getting more annoyed at it rather than enjoying ourselves. Now, we can still enjoy ourselves in a too trashy movie, but it might be more like we're getting annoyed at it. Then you've got torture, which is what we used this clip from. We used Mommie Dearest for that clip, which means that basically it's torturous. We hated everything about this per se, even if there were tiny glimmers of hope. Everything here was it was a slog to sit through. It was torturous. And so, Ed, where would you put Mommie Dearest on the Trashometer?
For me, it's a very easy decision because I really enjoyed it. And it's like, in terms of a bad movie, it has the right balance of all what I want to see. So, you know, it's perfect trash for me. It's smack in the middle of the scale. There's nothing wrong with it in terms of a trashy movie. It's great.
And the thing is as well, like, there are moments where you actually find that the movie's actually good. Like, you're sitting there going, this is actually really good at moments. Like, there's some really heartfelt moments and so on. But it is the schizophrenic nature of everyone involved in this movie. The performances, the editing, the speed running through Joan Crawford's life, everything. It's just the right level of beautiful, trashy camp. There is a reason why this was called the Citizen fucking Kane of camp. And it is spot on. Yes, it had a horribly bizarre production history. Yes, people got hurt. Yes, Faye Dunaway's career could never recover from this movie. Yes, there's so much wrong with this, but it is such an amazing experience that if you've never seen it before, this will almost change your life. And if you've never seen if you want a pure introduction of what camp can be, Mommie Dearest is totally it.
Definitely. I mean, it reminded me as well of, like, when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of soap operas, and they can be very gripping, and you are gripped to this like a soap opera. You know, you get like involved with the melodrama, and you really get hooked on it, and you're like, you feel like you want the popcorn there, and you kind of, with wide-eyed watching it, you're kind of glued to it, and then just purely entertained by it.
You kind of want to, like, the thing with soap operas, we're good soap opera. I like the American ones, but my grandmother used to watch all the Spanish soap operas. We're talking about the Mexican ones, you know, the novellas. And those were ridiculous and campy and over the top. It's like, oh my God, Fernando, you're sleeping with my brother, and all this kind of stuff. It's all ridiculously cheesy, over the top acting, people slapping people through tables, all that nonsense. And it is fun. My grandmother loved it. She's gripping. She's always said, when I was younger, she used to tell me, like, now that guy there, that guy's having an affair with this girl over here, but that girl doesn't know about this one. Everyone's engrossed. Every character is ridiculous because they never really change with soap operas, don't they? Rarely does a character change per episode unless they like go through a dramatic transformation or, I don't know, grow a mustache because they're evil or something. And you just have a really good time with it. And this is what this movie is. It is the soap opera experience in a 2-hour movie with the highest extreme levels of quirky acting you would ever see.
Definitely.
And so I think I can very happily say that Mommie Dearest is trash.
It's got to be
perfect trash.
Very easy decision. Very easy.
It's such an easy decision. And you know what's great about it is this is our second Pride Month special, and both of them have fallen under trash.
Yeah.
And you got Xanadu for its own different reasons, and although it's very high on the trashometer there because it's like it could have gone into too trashy, but it's still trash. This though is spot on. Like, we've rarely had movies where we can just say, this is easy, it's trash.
I know, there's no umming and ahhing
middle.
about it. We were both just adamant it's definitely trash.
It's definitely trash. And it's right in the middle. The only other movies I felt like right in the middle were things like Barbed Wire and The Room, for example, where like, this is perfect trash. It's in the middle. Nothing can top this, right? It's the perfect experience. We haven't had many perfectly perfect trash. We've had trash films, but not like a unanimous decision. It's in the middle. It's the best time. And so, yeah, that's Mommie Dearest for us. And that was an absolutely wonderful time. And on that bombshell, until next time, keep an eye on your trash. There might be some treasure in there. See you all next time.
See you later, guys.